Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through your day. Now, here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Welcome to Dare a New Belief, where you will find light and life, love and joy, healing, faith, and hope. A place where you get to believe in what is possible for your life. And tonight, I have the great honor to welcome back again, Tonya Jahnke. Tonya is a registered nurse of 25 years. She is passionate about keeping families healthy and happy together by sharing the whole food nutrition of Juice Plus. She is happily married to Corey for 27 years. And that could be 28. We need to clear that up. And they have one son, Christopher, who the whole conversation is about in part one and in part two. And she is also the owner of two sweet pups who fill her life with love and fun. And now I understand why the pups are so important in your life, because you've been this adoptive mama since you were a little kid. Welcome back, yes. Tonya.
Oh, thank you, Nada. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I'm just happy to be here.
Well, I am overjoyed to have this time with you and for you to share your story so openly. It's beautiful. And so anybody who missed part one, I was talking to Tonya about she adopted her son, or Tonya and Corey, her husband, adopted their son, Christopher, 18 years ago, correct? He's 18?
Yes.
Okay, yes. 18 years ago. And that's the conversation. So in part one, we're covering how she decided to adopt, how Corey and Tonya decided to adopt. And now I want to dive into this being an open adoption. So that means that the birth parents pick the adoptive parents, which is beautiful. And the birth parents stay in the picture throughout the child's entire life. That's correct, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Wow. So it's just, it's like a win-win in every scenario that I can see in my heart. So can we start with that? Can we start with, how did the birth parents choose you? I mean, what was it about you and Corey that they loved enough to give their child to you? And what was that whole process like, Tonya?
Well, when we were going through the adoption services and all of the classes, we needed to put together more or less a portfolio. Do you remember scrapbooking where you cut out pictures and pasted? Yes, yeah. That was our book, and we still have our adoption book. But yeah, so it was a portfolio of our lives. And the adoptive parents, they chose us, I believe, because of our healthy lifestyle. At that time, I started to run marathons. So I had pictures of Corey and I. We were running marathons together. We liked Walt Disney World. We had visited Walt Disney World a couple times. We worked out, so there were some pictures of us, lifting weights, walking our dogs, taking care of our cats, pictures of our home. I think they just liked our healthy lifestyle. Corey and I don't drink alcohol. We don't, smoke cigarettes. We live pretty healthfully. Being a nurse and a pharmacist, we take our health pretty seriously. So I think they really liked that aspect. And at the time, they were pretty young. I believe his birth mom was 19 and birth dad was 21 at the time. So they were pretty young and looking at us, and we were in our early 30s, just knowing that we were stable. We had been married for 10 years at that time, and yes, and I think that's what really drew them to us.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So the birth parents pick you out, and then what happens after that? Like, you get a phone call, the agency calls and says, we have a potential child for you. How does that whole thing go?
Oh, well, I'll try to tell a story without crying, but so our social worker, her name was Jane, and Jane was an amazing woman. She had been working at Lutheran Social Services for over 30 years at that time. And she had called me, and I was home alone. And she said, "Tonya, are you sitting down?" I said, "I'm standing, but just tell me." And by then it had been a year, and had been a full year.
Wow.
Because it takes that long for adoption. And actually, that's a pretty short adoption window. Once you place your application and you go through the home study, you go through all of the parenting classes, it was a full year.
Wow.
So actually it was short, and all I had was a crib. I wasn't ready, because I'm thinking this is going to be 18 months, 2 years, because you don't ever know. We were just cleared. Our home study was cleared, and then it could have happened. And she said, "Well, he might be coming to live with you next week." And my mind's like,
"Oh my God,
I have to pay the, all I have is a crib." And she said, there's this baby, and they chose you and Corey. And at first I thought, she said, his name is Christian. I said, "Oh, I love that name," And she said, "No, it's Christopher." And I said, "Oh, I love that name even more." And which is wonderful, because my husband's best friend, still to this day, his name is Christopher, and Corey, my husband's brother, his name is Christopher. So, anyway, so, yes, and so I called Corey right away at work and said, "We were chosen, and we get to go meet Christopher next week." So that's how it happens. And then you set up a meeting time with the birth parents. And first we met his birth dad, and it was within a week. And it was amazing. I mean, I just cried the whole time, because I'm like, this baby could be ours,
Yeah.
And but I remember Corey holding Christopher for the first time, and Christopher grabbed onto Corey's finger,
Yes. Oh.
He just looked right at him, and he was 2 weeks at that time. Christopher is 2 weeks old. And it was wonderful, Nada. And I was just like, this is it,
Yeah. Oh. How sweet. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So then what happens is you have to have a court date between the adoptive parents and the birth parents. And the courts were so backed up that we couldn't get a court date until he was 2 months old.
Oh.
So we couldn't bring him home until December 4th. So during that time, we had met him. His birthday was his birth date. It was October 2nd. We met him when he was about 2 weeks old. And then during that time, between that, when he was 2 weeks old to the 2 months old, when we could bring him home, I went down to Eau Claire, which was an hour from my home, almost every day before I went to work as a nurse in the OB department. And I gave him his morning bath, and I fed him, and I was able to have that bond, because what they have is they have something called bridge care.
Okay.
It's not necessarily foster care, but it's called bridge care. So Christopher went home to a bridge care family who had 2 young daughters. They were, I think, 7 and 9 at the time. And so that's what bridge care is. So the a potential child that's going to the adoptive family, they don't go into a foster home with, a lot of kids and a lot of activity. They go into a home where it's only 1 or 2 kids, and it's a settled family. And it was amazing. It was such a gift. Yes.
Oh, yes, because I was going to say, how on earth, after holding Christopher at 2 weeks old, then how on earth do you wait 2 months? That had to be just the hardest time in your life. But if you can go and see him, even though it's a full hour drive away, but you can go and see him and give him a bath and love him and be with him. And, right. I mean, like, how beautiful. Did you couldn't leave with him, I'm sure, but you could go even on the weekends and spend more time with him or on your days off, I guess I should say. Okay. So how much time could you how much time could you spend with him? Was it limited or could you? Oh, how wonderful is it? But that still had to be just heartbreaking that like you're right here and I want you in my home. I don't want to drive to see you. I want you right here with me. How did you navigate that?
There was, you almost had to separate. I had to separate my brain just a little bit, not separate, but not get too attached. And I'm a very emotional, love on people. I'm always hugging, touching, loving on people and accepting people. And, but I had to keep Christopher I had to keep that disconnect because you could go crazy, because anything could happen because and the birth parents, they could change their mind if they wanted to.
Yes, I was wondering that. What happens at this bridge care if the parents do decide at that time, no, we changed our mind.
Right.
They have the right then to take him back?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yes, and that's why Lutheran Social Services, there's many agencies that place the potential child in the adoptive parents' homes before the papers are signed. Lutheran Social Services, well, they didn't 18 years ago, and I don't know if they do now, but they don't allow the child to go to the adoptive families because those things happen. And that's what I don't know if you hear horror stories like, oh my gosh, the agency came and took my baby away. Well, more than likely it was because the child was placed prior to the birth parents severing their rights.
Yeah.
So that's why we had to wait for that court date. And I was patient and it was very difficult, but I was patient and, but I had to almost keep him at arm's length. I went and I bonded as much as I could. And it was as hard as it was to leave. I said, you know what? He's not in your home yet. And he might not be here the next time. I mean, I didn't think those thoughts very often because I didn't want to visualize that. But the possibilities out there. So I was just very clear about it. I didn't get so attached to that, the outcome, because I wanted to make sure I took the steps, what I was doing. I was just going and I was just bonding as much as I can, taking the steps toward that court date. But boy, when December 4th came, that's when we celebrate our adoption day on December 4th. So, yes. And so then we went and the birth parents were there and it was all very civil, of course, because we had all been in contact with each other. We had all met at the Bridge Care family together, taking care of Christopher together, talking, sharing photos. And it's just wonderful.
Yes. Wow. Now, does Christopher know all of this part? Is that something that he's aware of? Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I made sure that as Christopher was being raised, that he knew that we were his parents, but we would always say, you came out of your birth mom's belly. We are your parents, but you were never in my belly, and he got that right away. Okay, that's cool. Honestly, and I'll tell you this quick story. So he was 6 years old and I set up this big, picnic date with him and I was going to go and answer all of his questions. And, we went to this place called Hunt Hill up in, near Spooner, Wisconsin, way up north in Wisconsin. And I sat him on this rock and said, okay, Christopher, any questions you have about your adoption, anything, I am here to answer everything. And his only question was, he said, well, I just don't understand the whole, where I came from, like what belly? And I was like, well, it's a message. She had you in the hospital and then we are your parents. Oh, okay, that's cool. And then he went to play. I was like, what? That was it. Honestly, that was it. So no questions. And now him being 18 and more or less an adult, if he has a question, he just calls them.
Oh,
and and now with Facebook, of course, we're all friends on Facebook. And it was wonderful. At first, as a brand new mom, part of me was a little bit like scared yet, like, is she going to come? But I love her so much because she's, I did have those kind of questions because I wanted to make her feel so comfortable with the decision that she made, that she,
right.
And I just loved on her as much as I possibly could. And she felt that. And she couldn't even take care of herself. They had one night together and then they split up. And she has a lot of health problems herself. So, and so does his birth dad. So they physically, emotionally, financially could never take care of Christopher as well as they would have liked to.
Right.
But the love that they have for him is like none other.
Yes. Oh, so I would love to talk about that. So because you guys meet up and you get to be together. So Christopher has seen his birth mother and father many times, and you guys have all been together. So how does that work? So I would love to know how it feels for you, and then if the birth mother, and I guess because I'm a mom, I guess I think more of the mother than the father, but even the mom and the birth mother and father, how do they, is there a jealousy part, or are they just so grateful that Christopher is so loved and so well taken care of? And how is that for Christopher? So how does it look through the lens of each one of your eyes, as well as you know?
Well, as far as I know, yes, his birth parents are wonderful human beings, full of love, compassion, and caring. They are two of the most compassionate, selfless people that I know. And I think they just knew that they were making the right choice for Christopher. And if they had any kind of jealousy, they did not show it. And I think they were so grateful that we were willing to open up our home and open up our hearts to them, truly accepting them. And my husband has always said, Tonya, the more people that can love Christopher, the better world this will be and the better person he'll be.
Oh, I love that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And when you look at it that way, so how could I ever deny that love?
Right. Yeah.
And for Christopher, I think it was just the way he grew up. Like, he's got a set of birth parents and he has parents.
Yeah.
And as Corey and we would always call his birth mom and dad like friends. Those are your friends, and birth parents. He'd like, is there a different term? I don't want to call them birth parents. Well, they're friends. They're your friends. He's like, yes, that's perfect. He said, that's it, but it's never been an issue at all. There hasn't been ever like any question, like, where did I come from? Why am I like this? I don't feel accepted. I don't feel, if Christopher has those kind of feelings, he does not express that. And, he's a well-rounded, healthy, very, very loved young man.
Yes. Wow. Oh, I just love it. What a beautiful scenario, because everybody's needs are met everybody's dreams are being met. And especially as the parent that is putting the child up for adoption, when you know and you get to see it in real time and witness it, that your child is being so loved, as if this is like, this child did come from my tummy. There's not, and I'm assuming that is exactly how it feels for you. But I want to finish that sentence, that for the birth parent to be able to know that my child is loved as much as I ever would have been able to love this child, and given such a better life, and I do that in air quotes, but somebody else who is better equipped to raise him in more structured, more health problems and all of that poses it, because I'm very sensitive, and this is a very soft spot for me, all about adoption, and one day we'll talk about that. So it makes me, it wells tears up in my eyes just knowing that those birth parents get to look at you and Corey and know that they did absolutely the best thing for Christopher, and that you guys didn't even change his name. And I don't know if that's an option, or if you guys could have changed his name, but that you didn't. It just makes me think, when we've adopted pets from Humane Society, we just don't change their name. That's the name that they know, and I want them to stay with that name. And I guess that's my question. Could you have changed his name, or you just didn't even want to? You love that name so much, like there's no need. I don't even need to ask if I can change a name.
No, and actually, I didn't want to change it. His name is Christopher David, and I always said when I became a mama of a human, I wanted to name them after a biblical name. And Christopher means God in love. And David, one of the strong heroes of the Bible. Yeah. Christopher David is perfect. I loved it so much. And I really wanted to honor his birth mom, because she named him that for a reason. Yeah. And I really did not want to take that away. I think he could have been called some beastly name. I probably would have kept it just in honor of her. But Christopher David is a beautiful name, and it is a beautiful. I wanted to keep that.
It's a beautiful name, and what a sweet thing for you to do, because right, like as we're dreaming, we think of having kids and husbands and what that's all going to look like, and then as we're dreaming that, a lot of times a name comes along with it, and I think it's so sweet and tender of you to be so considerate of the birth mom and to keep the name the same. And it is a beautiful name. And even if you said, even if it was this horrendous name, I probably would have still kept it just out of honor for that birth mom. And that just says loads about your loving and kind heart, and how you're just such a loving person. And I couldn't imagine a better family for Christopher to go to. And I think he knows that so well. I think he knows that as big as he is, because I've seen pictures. He is a big boy, and his love is just as big as that, if not more. Yeah. Tonya, of course, we're going to be in the time warp again, because we are.
Oh no! Okay,
it's insane. It's so crazy. So I guess I don't know. My ending question to wrap everything up with, I would say, is. What is the biggest blessing that you have discovered, have experienced, having your family, having your beautiful family of you and Corey and Christopher? What's the biggest blessing in that?
I think it's all about love.
Yeah.
I think the biggest blessing and I see it more and more every day, Nita. The love is all around us. And it just, we just get to choose to look at it and see it and experience it. I love it. And you just radiate love. I love you, Nita, for what you do and how you show up.
Thank you so much.
An amazing gift to the world.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That caught me completely off guard. Thank you so much, Tonya. Oh my gosh. I have a frog in my throat now. Well, I want to thank you again, Tonya, for being here and for sharing such a tender story of how Christopher came into your life, and how you get to share Christopher and the love of his birth parents, and how you and Corey are his loving parent. Well, I don't mean it like that. That you are you and Corey are the parents and the birth parents, and that the love that this young man is surrounded with, and you just can't help but have the ripple effect of that going off into the world. And I am grateful to you for bringing such love into this world, and for raising Christopher David in such a beautiful way that he just gets to emanate all of the love that you and all four parents have given this beautiful young man. So thank you so much for your beautiful gift that you brought to the world.
Thank you, dear.
Thank
you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I know, listeners, if you know anybody who is adopted, or if you know somebody who is thinking of putting a child up for adoption, these kinds of beautiful stories happen so often. And my wish and my prayer is that it allows you to glean some hope, and knowing that beautiful things can happen when we do the thing that feels so right for us in our heart, whether we're on the adopting end or whether we're the ones that are placing a child into adoption. So both beautiful gifts that we bring to the world that way. So Tonya, thank you so much for being here with us. I love and adore you, and I'm grateful.
Oh, thank you so much, Nada. You have just an amazing day.
Thank you so much, and you too. And for all of the listeners, have a beautiful week, and we'll see you back here this week. And please be sure to share this information with your friends and family and anybody that you know that can benefit from this conversation with Tonya. Bye-bye for now. See you next week.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please go to nadahogan.com for show notes and other information you can use right away. If you like what you heard here, please subscribe to our show, and don't forget to rate and review right there on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your shows. And don't forget to tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week.